So Morgan, in this music you use a ground bass that gives a lot of space for exploration in the material. Where did that idea come from for you?
Accidentally, in a way, because I was originally working on a different piece, a string quartet, and then a piano teacher friend of mine asked me if I could write a simple piano piece of a ground bass kind of character, that being a tune that usually in the bass it gets repeated ad infinitum, and then you put different things over the top of it. But I became more engaged in writing that piece than the actual string quartet piece, so I abandoned the quartet and reworked the piano piece into the string quartet material. So that's how it came about. Of course, I was aware of ground basses, and I had written tentatively. I had written previous ones in the past, but this was the most fully worked out one, I think. And then it just, unlike any other one I'd written before that, it actually does transpose at the very end of the piece. In fact, a friend of mine suggested I did that.
It's sometimes a change of key or harmony can just really set music
I
free
wouldn't just literally
bit.
Down a fifth.
Yeah.
Chris Austin told me to do.
Okay.
Okay.
And in that kind of cross-pollination between pieces, does that happen often for you in your process when you're writing music, that you might start one piece and inspire another, or are you kind of usually quite separate in the way that you work?
Not particularly organised.
As is the way for many composers.
I think so.
Yeah.
And sometimes on maybe even the same, because they're quite large pieces of manuscript paper, sometimes it'd be maybe more than one piece on the same one. So a certain amount of serendipity in that sense.
So all of those parts coming together, and when you're coming up with those very initial kind of gems of the piece, where does that come from for you? Is it systematic? Is it intuitive?
Mixture of the two, I think. Obviously a rough idea about how long the piece will be, and obviously the instrumentation.
Yeah. And with this piece being from, when was it written?
I think 2009.
Okay.
So not round about the time, in fact, I think of Phil Cashin's string quartet.
Okay. So, and how has your relationship to his music changed in that time, do you think?
Well, it took on a new form because John Woolrich, who runs a composers ensemble, asked me to write a piece for clarinet, violin, piano, cello, so quartet for the end of time line up, and it occurred to me to arrange this string quartet piece for that. So that suddenly became a new relationship with this piece.
Fantastic.
And not as straightforward as I thought it would be. It wasn't a question of just putting the highest note on the clarinet, and in fact I ended up rewriting portions of the piece. So that was became a new relationship with the piece.
There's a very specific kind of sound world within the string quartet that I think
it is. In effect, it probably took as long, if not longer, to write the transcription of it than the actual piece itself, which was a transcription of a piano piece. So for such a simple and short piece, it has a convoluted background.
And it also, taking on that, it's probably brought so much music, actually. You've kind of had this development of the material from the initial to the next to the next.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. I'd written one string quartet, it was only 2 minutes when I was a teenager, like post-Weber kind of style, but I hadn't visited the quartet medium since then.
What kind of what separated you from it for that time? Because it's sometimes quite daunting, I imagine. If you started off in the initial kind of 16-year-old stage, what made you leave it off for so long?
I don't think I'd consciously avoided it, but obviously there was a huge backlog of incredible quartets historically.
Yeah. And so
It's
many-
interesting that some composers actually didn't call their pieces string quartet. So there are several by Stravinsky, but none of them are called string quartet.
And some fantastic string quartets in the rest of the programme today. I think it all fits
Absolutely.
together
Yes,
wonderfully.
that's right. Yes.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you. It's a pleasure.